Fraternity hazing is one of those problems that everyone on campus knows exists but refuses to acknowledge. Several deadly hazing incidents have occurred across numerous American universities, yet hazing is seen as a necessary part of the initiation process. Hazing is a humiliation ritual designed to recruit new members of a college fraternity or sorority. This initiation process can last for a few weeks up to a month, depending on the organization. These events usually involve consuming unholy amounts of alcohol, substance abuse, and dangerous rituals. In early 2025, Caleb Wilson died after a brutal hazing event for Omega Psi Phi. The 20-year-old student attended Southern University A&M, where he became interested in joining a fraternity. During the recruiting process, fraternity members took Wilson along with 8 other pledges to an off-campus warehouse to conduct a hazing ritual. Pledges were lined up in a defenseless position, then punched 4 times in the chest. Wilson collapsed, then had a seizure before being taken to a nearby hospital. The fraternity members who took him to the hospital told staff members he got hurt playing basketball, which was a complete lie. Not too long after, 3 fraternity members were later arrested and charged with criminal hazing in the state of Louisiana. Caleb McRae was charged with manslaughter because he was the one who threw the lethal punch that killed Wilson. The 2 other suspects were arrested for physically harming pledges during the hazing ritual. These men were ages 23, 25, and 28, punching defenseless pledges who were many years younger than them. This power dynamic is very common amongst active fraternity organizations who exploit naive recruits willing to do anything to be accepted. Combine that with alcohol abuse, no adult supervision, and peer pressure, people will be willing to put themselves in compromising situations they wouldn't normally put themselves in. Just like Michael Den, an 18-year-old college freshman who met his demise during a hazing ritual for Delta Psi Phi. The Asian American fraternity was located near the City University of New York. In late 2013, Den was invited to pledge for the fraternity along with a group of other recruits. The pledges were taken on a secret retreat in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania. They were forced to complete a brutal ritual called the glass ceiling game. Each pledge had to wear a 30-pound backpack while being blindfolded and told to find their older brother. Their older brothers would shout from across the room, and the pledges would have to look for them based off the sounds of their voices. Other fraternity members would line up and try to prevent the pledges from reaching their older brothers. This resulted in pledges being kicked, punched, and slammed on the ground. 18-year-old Den suffered major trauma to his head and was knocked unconscious. It took them several hours before they decided to take him to the hospital. By that time, it was too late, and Michael Den was pronounced dead at the hospital. This could have been prevented because medical experts said that if they didn't wait 2 hours to take him to the hospital, they probably could have saved him. After this tragedy, 37 suspects were taken into custody, then charged with aggravated assault and hazing. Of the 37, 3 fraternity members were charged with voluntary manslaughter but only received 2 years in prison followed by probation. The fraternity suffered a 10-year ban and is still active to this day. You might be asking yourself, why are these pledges going through this grueling initiation process? 2 reasons: networking and exclusivity. Similar to secret societies like the Skull and Bones fraternity of Yale and the Freemasons, who give members exclusive perks and rites of passage. The only difference is that elite secret societies practice blood oaths, imitations of murder, group sexual activities, no diddy. Whether you want to join a secret society or join a college fraternity, recruits must be willing to complete the initiation process in order to join. College fraternities use hazing events as a barrier to entry that is designed so pledges can create a close bond through light forms of trauma. Whether it's being yelled at, degraded, or forced into some crazy situation, this process creates a brotherly bond through overcoming uncomfortable situations as a unit. I forgot to mention, some fraternities will actually practice public humiliation as part of hazing. When I attended university, there was these 2 pledges who showed up to class wearing nothing but a shirt and tie and booty shorts. Crazy thing was that each day, for a week, they had to cut the shorts shorter and shorter until basically their ass cheeks were hanging out during lecture. I don't know how the university didn't catch on and realize this was hazing, because they were probably pulled aside and they said, no, this is my personal choice. I'm not being forced to do this. Those 2 pledges for that weird fraternity, I wonder what they do behind closed doors. Only Diddy would know. This goes to show how some fraternities will make their pledges do some weird, messed up public humiliation to prove their loyalty. The fraternity I was in didn't do any of that weird stuff. We had to do office hours, gym, study hours, learn time management skills. Not all fraternities practice these weird sexual humiliation rituals. These pledges who walked into class wearing booty shorts did it with a smile on their faces because they were promised unlimited BJs once they joined the frat. After the hazing process is complete, pledges then become official members of the fraternity and are given responsibilities such as organizing charity events, orchestrating community service, and raising money for future projects. Hopefully you're drinking tea eating healthy, and relaxing. Stay away from organizations that force you to drink in excess, degrade you, or have outlandish requirements to join. Recently, there was body cam footage released by police that exposed a dark hazing ritual in the basement of a frat house. In 2024, at the University of Iowa, Alpha Delta Phi was put under investigation after campus police made a shocking discovery at their frat house. Investigators uncovered a hazing ritual involving 59 pledges that were blindfolded, shirtless, and covered in garbage. Each pledge had a blank stare on their face and were not responding to commands. Police were demanding to speak to someone in charge, but frat members weren't cooperating with police. Once this guy in the white hoodie came downstairs, the situation escalated as he became defensive towards police. He gave them a fake name, was refusing to contact the house leader, and telling pledges not to talk to police. Joseph had lost his voice, presumably from all the screaming he was doing during the hazing event. What looks like happened to me is that Joseph and his frat bros got drunk, started screaming at pledges, dousing them in garbage, telling them to recite some sort of Greek alphabet. Who knows, but when police showed up, it was literally a horror movie scenario. They weren't moving, they were starstruck. It looked like they were in a trance and couldn't move because they were so traumatized. That being said, there's more to the story. Maybe one of the pledges couldn't take the abuse and decided to pull the fire alarm. Either way, police had this strange encounter and refused to leave until someone confessed the truth. One of the officers separated 2 pledges from the group to see if they would admit to the hazing ritual. Joseph then tried to move the pledges out of the house to avoid punishment. The fraternity president spoke to police when he accidentally admitted that it was a hazing ritual. Joseph was arrested the next day for obstructing a police investigation, but the charges were dropped a year later. The chapter was suspended for 4 years and will open again in 2029. This story went mega viral because of how strange the body cam footage was. Several famous live streamers reacted to this because it was really creepy, degrading, and strange to say the least. This isn't the first time authorities had to intervene in fraternity hazing rituals. In early 2019, 9 members of an LSU fraternity were arrested after beating and urinating on pledges. I'm not even kidding. They were pissing on pledges, beating them up, doing some really weird dark stuff. Check it out. One of the victims told authorities that he was stripped down to his underwear, doused in gasoline, then shoved into an ice machine. Afterwards, he was forced to lie flat on a basketball court covered in broken glass. Him and his fellow pledge were sprayed with water, were hit with milk crates, and pissed on. Another victim recounts one instance in which pledges were beaten with metal pipes, burned with cigarettes, and forced to take an ice pepper shower, whatever that means. 9 fraternity members of Delta Kappa Epsilon were arrested on charges that included criminal hazing and second-degree battery. 2 years prior, another LSU fraternity was put under investigation after an 18-year-old freshman died from extreme hazing. Maxwell Groover, along with other pledges, were told to recite the Greek alphabet or else they would be forced to chug hard liquor. Meanwhile, fraternity members would douse them in hot sauce and mustard while they do wall sits and planks. Groover eventually passed out from intoxication, but wasn't taken to the hospital until later the next morning. By that time, it was too late. Groover died with a blood alcohol level more than 6 times the legal limit. 10 members of Phi Delta Theta were arrested for their involvement in Groover's death. One of them was convicted of negligent homicide and received a suspended sentence of 2.5 years. The other 2 served about 30 days in jail for misdemeanor hazing. The 4th guy wasn't prosecuted. Groover's family filed a lawsuit and won a $6 million settlement from Louisiana State University and Phi Delta Theta. What makes this story even more concerning is that Groover was one of several pledges who died in hazing rituals nationwide in 2017, including Timothy Paiza at Penn State University, Andrew Coffey at Florida State University, and Matthew Ellis at Texas State University. Each of these young men died from alcohol poisoning, which brings me to my next point. Alcohol is the main factor in fraternity lifestyle. People don't want to accept it. Basically, everyone there is a glorified alcoholic. You get glorified for drinking the most, which doesn't make any sense. Congratulations, you're a jackass. If you're gonna drink to have fun, to get buzzed, not to get blackout wasted. Funny thing I observed is that they also use alcohol to lure in young pledges who can't legally buy alcohol, so they're like, hey, we got the booze, the hose, come join our frat. That's basically what a rush party is. It's a recruiting party. They give you a taste of Greek life, what it's like to be part of the fraternity, so that you eventually want to pledge. Delta Tau Delta made a fatal mistake by coercing an 18-year-old freshman to drink excessively late into the night. By Saturday morning, he was found unresponsive by authorities, who later arrested 3 fraternity members on charges related to hazing. These days, American universities have implemented anti-hazing policies to cover their own ass. You would think this would put an end to hazing, when in reality, it forced Greek organizations to be more secretive about their hazing. The frat I went to, there was strict anti-hazing policies, so they couldn't really do anything super crazy because we could literally go to the administration office, report them, and get their entire charter shut down. What we basically had to do was exercise, recite the Greek alphabet, yell, do some, basic stuff, not too bad. One of the older brothers in my fraternity who was a member in the 90s, he told me that you guys have it easy. Back in my day, we had to do some really horrible things like scream at dolls. He didn't even want to go into detail. He had that 1,000-yard stare from all the hazing that he's been through. Hazing these days is more low-key because of all the anti-hazing policies, but it still goes on behind closed doors, depending on the organization. Fraternities pride themselves on upholding generational traditions, secrecy, and continuing the organization's legacy. You cannot implement policies to cancel something that has been around for thousands of years. If this video piqued your interest, why not check out the other video I did on college hazing gone wrong? If you stayed till the end, you're a real one. I appreciate you. Leave a comment about what you thought about this. Do you think it's worth it becoming a pledge to join a fraternity? And if you actually joined a fraternity, how was your experience? I want to hear it. Thank you, and